of the things we've never gotten to experience for a Resident Evil game is taking on zombies on an island. I know you could say that Resident Evil Code Veronica took place on an island, which was Rockfort Island, but the environment was more like facilities, caves, umbrella labs, a mansion, and not at all going outside on the jungle side of the island. Now that brings me to Danger Island, another zombie-infested island. In this story, we take a look at a couple known as Leslie and Stan. They're on vacation to an island called Isla Bonale, located at the Eastern Caribbean. As they're about to land, Stan mentions that this place is so exclusive they only let 10 couples on the island at a time. They spend their first night having a romantic dinner and dancing. Then the next morning, they prepare to go snorkeling together. They arrive at the beach, meet Ace, who's in charge of the snorkeling equipment. They gather their supplies and head off to begin their next adventure. When they meet Ace, Stan asks if there are any sharks nearby. He lets them know that there aren't any sharks nearby, only eels, which are also quite dangerous. Leslie teases Stan for being a big tough army guy who's afraid of sharks, but who wouldn't be? They then use one of the kayaks to get a little distance from the island and begin snorkeling. But as soon as they dive in, a plane crashes right on the island. The plane was not meant to arrive on the island. It wasn't a part of another couple's vacation trip. The plane was dispatched by Umbrella HQ to a top secret location. But the plane and its deadly payload had instead unexpectedly crashed on this island. We don't know what happened in the plane, what caused it to crash on the island, but knowing Umbrella's experiments, they must have gotten out of control and killed everyone on board. Here's the worst part. The subjects carried inside the status tubes turned out to be the savage creatures known as the Lickers. And now that the status tubes have been broken, they quickly scattered throughout the island, infecting other creatures. What makes these creatures far worse than others is that they infect their prey with the G virus and not the T virus. So the host would become much more deadlier than the T virus. 2 hours go by, and Stan and Leslie are just about to finish snorkeling. Stan suddenly gets cut by some coral, and his blood attracts the attention of an eel. Stan and Leslie reach the shore. They walk up to Ace and ask him if he's packing up. Ace turns around and suddenly attacks Leslie, pushing her to the ground, and then bites her on the left wrist. Stan quickly gets a spear and impales Ace with it on his back and tosses him right into the ocean water. The corpse of Ace becomes the next target for the eel that followed Stan and Leslie. It then proceeds to eat the undead Ace. Stan and Leslie run over to sea management to inform them of what just happened, but the building appears to be surrounded by infected cheetahs. Stan and Leslie slowly back away as they hadn't been noticed yet. They get lucky enough to back away without being seen by the infected cheetahs, and now they run back to take the kayaks and leave the island before it's too late. But as soon as they reach the shore, a giant mutated eel is seen crushing the kayaks, their only means of escaping this deadly island. They run back into the jungle to get away from it before it sees them as well, but it turns out that the eel could smell the original prey, and it goes after them. While Stan and Leslie try to find another means of escaping, Leslie notices a blue herb, and she recognizes it from her hospital training. She uses the blue herb to heal herself from the zombie bite. Then, as she prepares to use it, the plants near them turn out to be giant Venus flytraps, and they manage to grab Stan and pull him towards them. Stan tells Leslie to run off to the top of the cliff behind them. He tries to cut the plant vines that are pulling him closer to the Venus flytrap, and he manages to escape from them. He begins climbing up the cliff, but now there's another creature heading towards him. It's the G-virus infected eel, and it's getting closer to Stan. As Stan continues climbing up, a large rock gets dislodged by Stan's foot, and it falls on the creature. Stan and Leslie reach the top, and it looks like the eel is no longer after them. They notice a tall building with a satellite dish not too far off from their location. Chances are that it's the communications building, and they'll be able to send out a distress signal and actually escape the island. They need to reach the building before it's too late, but what appears to be ahead of them is the plane that crashed on the island, so you know what lurks in their path. And what's even worse is that they don't have anything to protect themselves with. Stan suggests that they rest first before heading off. As they discuss their situation, a hissing noise can be heard near them. It's coming from inside a cave, and it turns out to be large infected reptiles. Stan and Leslie quickly jump off the cliff onto a tree and then proceed to run towards the building. Leslie runs ahead of Stan in complete panic because everywhere they turn, they're greeted with a large creature that's trying to kill them. But now that they're crossing by the plane that crash landed, lickers can be seen above them on the trees. Stan tries to talk Leslie into calming down because they're almost at the building, but then a licker reveals itself to be right on top of them. It slowly begins crawling down the tree, so Stan and Leslie try to make a run for it, but they are then quickly surrounded by more lickers. It looks like the end for this innocent couple, but then the ground begins to shake, and the G-virus infected eel appears from the ground and startles all the lickers, making them flee the area. This gives Stan and Leslie the opportunity to escape, but the eel manages to get Stan. He tries to hold it back while she gets inside the building and calls for help. The eel slashes Stan on his torso, and it prepares to finish him off. Stan notices a twisted wing strut and uses it to impale the creature as soon as it lunges forward at him like a bear. This works, but it only impales it on its left arm, so it's not enough to kill it, but enough to push it back and give him the chance to either run away or finish the job. The wounded beast staggers away from Stan, clutching at its injured shoulder. Stan notices that the beast has stumbled onto an unstable piece of wreckage, and he summons his remaining strength to jump on the other end. This throws the creature back, making it fall onto a forest of broken metal. And finally, the creature is dead. From Stan's location, you can hear that Leslie has begun reaching out for help. It isn't long until she gets a response, and she gives them their location and explains to them what's going on. Stan manages to walk into the communications room, and Leslie notices that he has deep wounds in his abdomen. She lays him down and tells him that everything will be alright. They're going to make it off the island together. Stan tries to tell her that if he doesn't make it, he wants her to know that he loves her. But she quickly interrupts him, telling him not to say that because they will be making it out alive together. She's contacted help, and they're on their way. And suddenly, without any delays, it appears that a chopper has already landed on the island, and they're already at the entrance to the communications building. A man walks in, and you can see that there are a couple choppers that are also arriving, and even more soldiers behind him, wearing biohazard suits. But if you look at the symbol on the suits, it appears to be the umbrella symbol. The man walks in the room alone and introduces himself. He is William Birkin, and he tells them, "You are the last two survivors on this island. We've just done an aerial search, and the others have not fared as well against my lovelies. I'm quite impressed. Too bad no one will ever hear your tale." He then proceeds to close the door behind him, and 2 gunshots can be heard. This is where the story ends. It's yet another shocking end, quite sad to be honest. These 2 survivors made it really far without any weapons, but in the end, it wasn't the creatures they were running away from them that killed them. It was the people they called for help. The thing I liked about this story was that it took place outside on an island where any creature can be lurking. But also, we ended up seeing characters use a blue herb plant, like the one seen in the original Resident Evil trilogy. It's cool to see healing items from a game be utilized in a story where they show us just how they use them. As a kid, you think they just eat the plant. As a teenager, you think they grind it up and apply the herb on the wounds. But as an adult, you start to think they smoke the herb. All of these can make sense, but we're not 100% sure. But here, we got a nurse who shows us what they do to heal themselves with the blue plant herb, which is neat. But aside from that, I've always thought that an island would be the most terrifying place to be at during an outbreak. Danger lurks on every side of the island, and if it isn't zombies that get you, then you have to worry about infected animals, insects, plants, pretty much everything in your surroundings. So I'm surprised that Capcom hasn't came up with a game where it revolves on trying to survive an outbreak on an island without any buildings in it. Maybe if you can build your own sanctuary, that could be a little more interesting. Certain areas of the island could contain useful items to help you build a tougher, more secure home, but what lies ahead could kill you from getting these items. Something like this would be entertaining to play for a Resident Evil game, in my opinion. But anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if so, please leave a like, share with others, and subscribe if you haven't. And don't forget to click on the little bell icon next to the subscribe button to notify you of every new video that gets uploaded to the channel. Also, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Tumblr to find out which videos are up next and whatever random posts I make. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.